Hey everybody, today I have for you a preview of the Monster Core rulebook for Pathfinder 2nd Edition Remastered. And before we get started, I need to let you know that I was provided a copy of this book by Paizo. Monster Core is 378 pages from cover to cover and has a retail price of $59.99. The PDF version may also be purchased online for $19.99, which is worth noting as Paizo heavily discounts their rulebooks versus setting books in the Lost Omens line, which typically cost $30 for those PDFs. Monster Core is the Remastered Edition's version of a bestiary, and just like Player Core 1 and GM Core are refreshes of the core rulebook and game mastery guide, Monster Core is a refresh of Bestiary 1. And this is very evident in the design of Monster Core, as it is intended to provide you with the sort of greatest hits for monsters. As such, it includes a lot of previously released content that has been updated to bring it in line with the Remastered Edition. These updates include things like removing alignments in favor of traits like Holy and Unholy, and changing some of the terminology such as attacks of opportunity becoming reactive strikes. This book also replaces a few familiar monsters that originated with Dungeons & Dragons with similar but legally distinct new monsters. For example, Shamblers have been redesigned as Sargassum Heaps. This is more than just simply changing the monster's name, and instead is a complete rebuild of the monster to suit the world of Galarian, but without sacrificing familiar traits. The Sargassum Heap is a 6th level plant monster, and with a speed score of only 10, one could very well describe it as shambling. But the redesign includes a few new twists to make the Sargassum Heap its own distinct monster. For example, Shamblers are enhanced when they are affected by electricity damage, just like the old D&D shambling mounts they're descended from. Whereas the Sargassum Heap has no special resistance to electricity and instead releases hallucinogenic spores that compel victims to walk closer towards it. So these are new monsters that fit a familiar niche, but they're redesigns, not simply reskins. Another change worth mentioning is how golems are treated. Basically, the golem type no longer exists, and instead the common golems found in the original bestiary have been replaced with similar constructs. Alchemical golems are now noxious needlers, clay golems are now clay effigies, flesh golems are now charnel creations, iron golems are now iron wardens, and stone golems are now stone bulwarks. Each of these redesigned constructs function similarly to their golem counterparts, but with greatly improved and clearly defined relations to magic. Instead of the golem anti-magic that seemed to just confuse everyone, these new construct types each have specific immunities and resistances with damage types and traits. It is worth mentioning for those curious about how the changes to golem anti-magic might affect the Will-O-Wisp and its form of anti-magic. Well, simply there's not much of a change there for Will-O-Wisps, they still have anti-magic. Another of the redesigned elements worth mentioning is how they're handling dragons. The familiar categories of metallic and chromatic dragons have been replaced with dragons based on the 4 magical traditions: Arcane, Divine, Occult, and Primal. Monster Core gives us stats for 2 new dragons from each of the 4 magical traditions. Fortune and Mirage dragons are Arcane, Diabolic and Imperial dragons are Divine, Conspirator and Omen dragons are Occult, and Adamantine and Horned dragons are Primal. They each have the familiar traits from dragons such as breath weapons, but with new twists. For example, Omen dragons breathe a translucent mist of potentialities that overwhelms creatures with visions of possible futures that deals them mental damage. In all, Monster Core provides stats and backgrounds for over 400 monsters, which is more than any single bestiary that came before it. In addition, it also provides a few other treats that you might expect, such as rules for creating liches and vampires, although I don't believe either of those have changed significantly from their original versions. So that should give you a general idea of what's in the book. It's basically a new and polished bestiary. But let's talk a little bit about pros and cons, and I'll start with the pros. This book is packed with a lot of content. It has a ton of monsters for you to throw at your players, and I believe the selection of monsters is on point. This is indeed a book of the greatest hits that will be easy for you to drop into most games, and not a lot of niche monsters suited for specific campaigns or specific locations. Also, I appreciate the redesigns. Rather than just reskinning problematic monsters from D&D, they took the opportunity to completely redesign them, and from what I can tell, these redesigns are mostly for the better. Also, Monster Core simply makes the game better. A clear example of this is how they fixed golems. The new versions are clear, easy to understand, and do not sacrifice any real flavor. And I know plenty of people will probably disagree with me, but I think another positive here is the price, specifically the price of the PDF. 400 monsters and supporting content for $20 comes out to about 5 cents per monster, which is a pretty good deal. That, however, assumes you don't already have access to these monsters, which brings us to the cons. The first and most obvious con is a lot of the monsters included we've seen before, and everything previously published is still valid and can be used in the game. So if you already have Bestiaries 1, 2, and 3, you may not find as much value in Monster Core as you'd want from a whole brand new Bestiary. That said, if you're new to Pathfinder 2nd Edition and don't already have those Bestiaries, this is obviously the best monster book to get. Second, some of the redesign with the remaster editions may have slipped through the cracks. I haven't noticed any errors that I would consider deal breakers, but as others online have noted, the change in how grab works has not been implemented as well as one might hope in Monster Core. In the old version, grab automatically succeeded without a skill check, and now with the remaster edition, the attacking creature needs to succeed with an athletics check to successfully grab. But several monsters with grab abilities in Monster Core have no athletics skill entry. I don't consider this absolutely detrimental to the game or would prevent me from purchasing the book, but it is definitely worth mentioning, and I expect that this will probably be resolved fairly soon with some errata. So there you have it, a quick look at Monster Core that officially releases on March 27th. Let me know in the comments if you have any questions about the book, and as always, thanks for watching, take care, and happy gaming.